icy heart of Canada's far north, where the sun can vanish for weeks and the wind carries secrets older than memory. There lies a land shrouded in silence and shadows, from abandoned trading posts to haunted fire halls. Nunavut hides stories that will chill you to the bone. Tonight, we're peeling back the frost to uncover the top 10 most haunted places in Nunavut, where every creak, whisper, and flicker of light might just be something not quite human. One, Ranken Inlet Fire Hall. You push open the heavy firehouse door, and the first thing that hits you is the smell of smoke and engine oil familiar, but somehow colder. The place should feel safe, but here, in Ranken Inlet's fire hall, safety is an illusion. At first, it's just little things, a single glove vanishing from your gear bag, tools misplaced when you know exactly where you left them. Then, you start hearing faint footsteps echoing in the empty bays, the quiet scrape of boots on concrete when no one else is there. One night, during a late shift, you turn and see him, an older man in a weathered fire chief's coat, standing just beyond the reach of the light. His face is pale, his eyes locked on you, and then he's gone. Other times, it's the girl, small, no more than 10, in a faded dress, her hair damp as if she's just come in from the rain. She doesn't speak, just watches you, her reflection flickering in the chrome of the fire truck. Then the alarms blare, the lights flash red, and when you look back, she's vanished. The strangest part, it's not just your mind playing tricks. New recruits have described the same figures without ever hearing the stories. Security cameras have caught shadows moving across the bays when the building is locked. And the gloves always. The gloves turning up days later in impossible places. You came here to fight fires, but in Ranken Inlet's fire hall, you're battling something you can't see, can't touch, and can't outrun. And as the night stretches on, you realize you're not the only one on shift. Two, Arctic Winter Games Arena. You step onto the ice, and the cold bites deeper than it should, like it's seeping straight into your bones. The arena is empty, the stands looming in silence, but every sound you make feels amplified, bouncing back at you in strange, broken echoes. You've heard the whispers about this place in Iqaluit, and tonight, you're about to find out if they're true. It starts with a faint voice. Not words, just a low hum, curling through the air like the edge of a forgotten song. You turn, but the ice is clear. Then comes the bang, loud, sharp, like a heavy door slamming somewhere deep beneath the stands. Your breath catches in the frozen air. That's when you see him, a tall, thin shadow, impossibly dark against the rink's bright surface. He glides across the ice without a sound, his form bending unnaturally, like he's made of smoke. The figure stops mid-rink, head tilting toward you, and though you can't see his face, you feel the weight of his stare, pinning you in place. Security guards have sworn they've chased him, before skates cutting across the ice only for the shadow to dissolve into the boards and vanish. Players talk about feeling a sudden hand on their shoulder mid-practice, turning to find nothing but empty air. The hum returns, louder now, circling you like a predator. The shadow shifts, sliding closer with each flicker of the arena lights. And in that frozen heartbeat, you understand. The ice belongs to him, and you are only trespassing. 3. White Row. You stand outside the row of weather-beaten houses, their paint peeling under the Arctic wind. Locals call this place White Row old student boarding houses, with a history no one wants to talk about after dark. You step inside, and the floorboards groan under your weight, the air thick with the scent of dust and something metallic. The first sound is faint, just a slow, deliberate creak from the hallway above. You look up, and in the dim light, you see him, a man, hanging from the ceiling by a rope, swaying ever so slightly. His face is pale, his eyes dull and lifeless, yet fixed on you as if he's still aware. Then blink, and he's gone. But the footsteps remain, heavy ones, pacing overhead, sometimes fast enough to make the ceiling tremble. Tenants have reported waking to the sound of someone running through their rooms, or feeling the icy breath of something unseen at their ear. One woman swears she locked her door before bed, only to wake and find it wide open, her blankets stripped away. You pass a cracked mirror in the hall, and for a moment, there's a figure standing behind you, tall, unmoving, his head tilted in that same dreadful angle as the hanging man. You spin around. Nothing. Locals say White Row's tragedies were never truly buried, that the souls trapped here relive their final moments, night after night. And as you step back into the freezing air, you can't shake the feeling that one of them has followed you out. 4. Hudsons Bay Company buildings. The old Hudsons Bay Company buildings loom ahead, their wooden frames weathered by decades of Arctic storms. By day, they seem like relics of history, quiet, abandoned, harmless. But step inside at night, and you'll feel it immediately, the weight of someone watching from the shadows. The halls smell faintly of old paper and salt, the remnants of goods once shipped through these walls. You walk past rows of empty offices, their windows rattling softly against the wind. Then, out of the corner of your eye, you see him, a man in an old-fashioned suit, his coat buttoned high, his boots leaving no sound on the wooden floor. He's standing in the doorway at the far end of the hall, his face unreadable. You take a step toward him, but he turns slowly and disappears around the corner. When you follow, the hallway is empty, except for the faint creak of footsteps above you, even though the upper floor has been locked for years. Workers have whispered about him for decades. Some say he was a former manager, others a clerk who never made it home one winter night. There are stories of him appearing on the roof, staring down at the street before fading into thin air. A security guard once swore he felt a hand on his shoulder while doing rounds, only to find the room empty, save for the smell of pipe tobacco hanging in the air. You try to shake it off, tell yourself it's just the wind. But as you step outside and glance up, you see him silhouetted against the moonlight on the roof, watching you leave. 5. Pine tree-lined bunker. The entrance yawns before you, a dark mouth carved into the frozen ground. The pine tree-lined bunker, an abandoned Cold War relic, was meant to guard against enemies. Now, it hides something far stranger. The air inside is heavy with rust and damp earth, each breath clouding in the frigid stillness. Your flashlight cuts a narrow path through the darkness, and every step echoes too loudly, as if the walls themselves are listening. Halfway down the corridor, you hear it, 3 words, clear as ice. Don't come back. You freeze. The voice isn't yours, and it isn't coming from your radio. It's close, too close. Locals tell of strange lights flickering deep in the tunnels, long after the power was shut off. Hikers speak of seeing pale figures watching from the tree line, vanishing when approached. One man swears he followed the sound of footsteps into the bunker, only for them to stop abruptly in front of a wall, and then continue from behind it. You pass rooms filled with decaying equipment, desks overturned, chairs scattered as if someone left in a hurry. Your light flickers, and in that stuttering beam, you catch the outline of a soldier helmet, uniform, rifle slung across his chest, standing perfectly still at the far end of the hall. He doesn't move. He doesn't breathe. And when the light steadies again, the hallway is empty. The cold seems sharper now, biting through your coat. You back toward the exit, but the echo of your footsteps is wrong. There's one more set, matching you, step for step, all the way out into the night. Shit's Igloo Hotel. The structure rises from the snow like something out of a dream, perfect white curves glowing under the pale Arctic moon. But as you step closer, the Igloo Hotel feels less like a marvel and more like a mausoleum. The air is unnaturally still, your boots crunching in the silence. Inside, the walls shimmer faintly with trapped frost, their icy surfaces bending the light into strange shapes. The first time you hear it, you think it's just the wind, a low, mournful moan rolling through the frozen corridors. But then it becomes voices, speaking in a language you don't understand, their tones urgent, pleading. You follow the sound into a wide, domed chamber, and that's when you see them faint, translucent figures of Inuit hunters, their parkas rimmed with frost, their eyes reflecting the flicker of an unseen fire. They stand in a circle, heads bowed, as if reliving a final, desperate moment. Visitors have told stories for years of waking in the night to find frost spreading across their blankets in perfect handprint shapes, of ice melting in the form of faces staring back at them. One guest even captured a photo of a shadow inside their room, despite no one else being there. You take a step toward the hunters, but the temperature plummets instantly, your breath turning to thick mist. The figures raise their heads in unison, their eyes locking on you, and a sudden, slicing wind roars through the chamber. The lights above flicker, and just before they go out, you see their mouths open, not in a scream, but in a long, rattling exhale that chills you to your core. And in that darkness, you realize the Igloo Hotel never truly let its last guests leave. Seven, Dundis Harbor. The wind cuts like knives as you step onto Devon Island, the most desolate place you've ever seen. Ahead lies Dundis Harbor, its collapsed wooden buildings, leaning under decades of Arctic storms, the ground littered with rusted tools and broken sled runners. It's been abandoned since 1951, but the silence here feels inhabited. You walk toward the cemetery, its crooked white crosses barely standing against the snow. Locals say 2 graves belong to men who died under strange, violent circumstances. One by an unexplained gunshot, the other by what the official record calls self-inflicted, though whispers tell a different story. The wind seems to change pitch as you pass between the graves, carrying with it a faint murmur, like voices speaking just beyond the range of hearing. Explorers have reported seeing figures moving among the building's men in heavy parkas, faces hidden, carrying lanterns that vanish when approached. A research team once camped nearby swore they heard footsteps circling their tents all night, though no tracks were ever found in the morning snow. You push open the door of the old RCMP outpost, its hinges screaming in protest. Inside, the air is stale, but there's the undeniable smell of burning oil, as if the stove had been lit moments before. Your flashlight sweeps over the walls, and there, etched deep into the wood, are scratch marks, long and jagged, as if made by something desperate to get out. A sudden shadow passes across the doorway. You spin, but the open frame is empty, the wind howling through it. And then, beneath that howl, comes the slow, deliberate sound of boots crunching in the snow, moving closer. Padlai. The tundra stretches endlessly around you, a frozen ocean of white, but ahead, half buried in snow, lies what remains of Padlai. Once a bustling Hudsons Bay trading post, it's been abandoned for decades, its wooden walls weathered to a ghostly gray. The silence here is different. It's not just absence of sound, it's a pressure, as if the land itself is holding its breath. You step into the trading post, the door hanging by a single hinge. Inside, shelves still stand, empty but dusted with frost. Your boots crunch on the floor, and then you hear it, a faint scraping from the back room. When you investigate, the room is bare, except for a small child's mitten lying in the snowdrift that's crept through a shattered window. Padlai's history is heavy with loss. During a famine in the early 20th century, many here starved, their bodies buried in shallow graves just beyond the settlement. Inuit elders speak of seeing pale figures on the horizon, thin, gaunt silhouettes that vanish if you blink. Hunters have told of feeling hands grip their arms in the darkness, only to find no one there. You wander further, past a collapsed storage shed. The wind picks up, carrying with it what sounds like voices low, rhythmic chanting, though no words you recognize. Then you notice them faint footprints in the snow, too small to belong to any adult, leading away from the settlement, but stopping abruptly in the middle of the open tundra. The air grows colder, your breath coming faster, and in the stillness, you feel it, that undeniable sensation of dozens of unseen eyes fixed on you, waiting for you to turn and see what's behind you. Nine. Baffin Island Legends. The Arctic night on Baffin Island is endless. The sky a black canvas pierced by cold, distant stars. Out here, the darkness feels alive, pulsing with old stories that have been whispered for generations. Inuit elders tell of strange lights dancing across the ice. Not the aurora, but something smaller, closer, flickering just out of reach. Some who've chased them say they lead you farther and farther from safety, until the wind swallows you whole. You walk along the frozen shoreline, your lantern casting a weak circle of light. The ice groans beneath your boots, but it's the water that draws your eyes, a slow, rhythmic ripple, breaking the perfect stillness. Then, a shape emerges, slender, pale, and impossibly long. It hovers just below the surface. The stories rush back to you, Kalupalik, a sea creature with green skin and long black hair, known to lure the unwary with a soft, almost motherly humming. Children who hear it never return. Hunters have claimed to see dark figures watching from the cliffs, vanishing when approached. Others tell of voices carried on the wind, calling their names with uncanny accuracy. One man swore he followed the sound of his wife's voice through a snowstorm, only to find himself standing alone on a sheer cliff's edge. The hum rises now, weaving around you, sweet and inviting. Your lantern flickers, and for a moment, you swear you see her, a woman's face beneath the ice, eyes wide and unblinking, lips curved into the faintest smile. The ice groans again, louder this time, as if it's straining to give way. You take a step back, but the humming follows. Out here on Baffin Island, the stories aren't just legends, they're patient, waiting for the moment you let your guard down. Center, Lake Anjukuni. The frozen expanse of Lake Anjukuni glitters under the moonlight, its surface hiding one of the Arctic's most unsettling mysteries. You've heard the story before, an entire Inuit village, gone without a trace, but standing here. The silence feels heavier, as if the land itself remembers. You follow the shoreline, where the snow lies untouched. No footprints, no sled tracks, nothing to suggest life has ever been here. Then you see them, the remains of wooden huts, their frames leaning and brittle. Inside, furs still lie neatly folded, rifles rest in the corners, and kettles sit over long dead fires, as if the people simply stood up mid-meal and walked into the night. The official search found no bodies, no signs of struggle. Dogs were discovered dead, still tethered, as though their owners had never returned. The food stores were full. The clothing left behind everything, except the people. Some hunters claim to have seen strange lights hovering above the lake on the night they vanished, glowing spheres that drifted silently over the water before disappearing into the stars. As you step between the abandoned huts, the air grows unnaturally still. You think you hear something, a faint murmur, like a dozen voices speaking just beyond the trees. The sound pulls you toward the edge of the forest, where the snow suddenly dips into a series of deep, perfectly round holes. They're too uniform to be natural, too smooth, as if carved by something that didn't belong here. You turn back toward the lake, but the huts are gone, swallowed by the darkness. And in that moment, you understand why no one truly searches for answers anymore, because whatever took them might still be here, and it might be watching you now. These frozen landscapes hold more than snow and history. They keep the restless spirits of those who never left, whether it's a vanished village, a shadow on the ice, or whispers in the wind. Nunavut's hauntings remind us that the Arctic never truly sleeps. So, which of these places would you dare to visit? Or maybe the better question is, would you make it back?